Friends, just a few words about Justin Trudeau's resignation. Why does it matter that Justin Trudeau has resigned, even though the election is not going to take place for a few more months? Because this is not about Justin Trudeau. It is not about the Liberal Party. It's not about any other party, Conservative Party, NDP, what have you not. The Trudeau resignation is very much about the fact that for now more than a year, Canadian Jews have felt like Canada has turned on them. Justin Trudeau has adapted the James Baker policy, who basically says, who cares about the Jews, during George Bush Sr.'s time. He said, who cares about the Jews, put mildly, they don't vote for us anyways. And with Trudeau, it's actually interesting because it's the opposite, because Jews did vote for the Liberal Party, and yet we've seen such horrific increase in anti-Semitism against Jews in Canada, in Montreal, in Toronto, in Vancouver, with no proper government action in response. We've seen Canadian Jews have their schools shot at. We've seen the Shari Tzedek synagogue in Vancouver firebombed. We've seen the Beis Chayamushka school in Toronto attacked with live fire many times. We've seen so many synagogues in Toronto vandalized, and we've seen openly pro Hamas, Hezbollah, what have you not, people marching through Jewish neighborhoods, the repeated attacks on the Israeli embassy in Toronto in brazen ways that we have not seen in other cities. Yes, other cities like New York, London, etc. did have large pro-Palestinian protests, but what we've seen in Canada, the brazenness of protesters blocking off Jewish neighborhoods, protesting on the bridge, entering the Jewish neighborhood, and really making Canadian Jews a pariah in their own country. That's something that has not been seen elsewhere. In many ways, it's even worse than what was seen in France at the peak of the horror of anti-Semitism in France. And so the fact that this was allowed to happen in such broad daylight with such lack of action, that's important, because that sets the stage to say such a government cannot last. And that's why it's important that Trudeau has resigned. It's also all the more appalling when you think about the Trudeau legacy of shame that's going to go down in history as one of the worst ones for Canadian Jews, the worst one. You think about what Trudeau did at the time, I forgot if it was 21 or 22, where the truckers came to protest in Ottawa, and he had not only the protest demolished, but he also had the finances of the truckers frozen, and even people who donated had their accounts attacked with all these counterterrorism measures and broad overreach, which you can say, okay, is meant to protect the country or whatever it is, but to exercise such extraordinary governmental power against the truckers protesting Trudeau in Ottawa, and at the same time to somehow be so passive and helpless when it comes to protecting Canadian Jews from the mobs that were overtaking the neighborhoods, that's irreconcilable, and that's unforgivable anti-Semitism. And yes, you have also the iconic, infamous image of Trudeau welcoming Zelensky to Parliament, and at the same time, applause to Nazi SS guy Yaroslav Hunka, which ended up being a tremendous shame. The Trudeau apology was not forthcoming. It took a lot of time and a lot of people speaking out. And to this day, we did not see an admission and an agreement for Canada to release the names of World War II criminals that were allowed to enter Canada after the war. And so all that combined puts a lot of healing that's needed ahead of us. There's a lot of work that needs to be done. Trudeau will go down as one of the worst presidents in prime ministers in Canadian history for a simple reason, and that is that there are certain parts of the population that he just decided to write off. And one of those groups were Jews, where he was like, who cares? And the fact that Jews were so unsafe, especially following October 7th, the fact that his foreign minister took such hostile actions towards the state of Israel, including an arms embargo, while at the same time embracing Israel's worst enemies and people who are not friends of Canada, that's all part of this package. And I believe I know many Canadian Jews, and of all different political persuasions, I do not know a single one that will be saddened to see Trudeau go, just because it's not a political issue. It's not a matter of party. If it was a matter of party, we can each take our different positions, and that's fine. But Trudeau is not a matter of politics. Trudeau is a matter of someone who let Jews live a true horror and a nightmare and had no regard for fixing the problem. I mean, he should have been showing up at synagogues. He should have been showing up at the schools being shot at, and he didn't. And so that's his legacy. It's not a legacy he'll be able to change because he already announced his resignation. If he has a conscience and if he has a soul, he goes now to every single